Friends, hello everyone. My name is Roman Kornev. You are on the channel about professional stock trading. And today's Sunday video, I want to spend a little unusual. We will talk about what to do if you lost your deposit, how to trade if you have no money. And running a little ahead, I want to say that if you watch the video to the end, we will discuss how to kill the deposit on the stock exchange. Right now, I will show you which currency pair is the best to trade with my trading robot. We will also discuss pivot points, where to buy, and where to sell using my smart pivot points trading strategy. So here we go. The best currency pair to run my trading robot on at the moment is the Australian dollar. I talked about this in the last video. Even though the price is slightly out of the sideways trend, the pair is still in a slightly upward sideways trend. That's why it shows a good return on the robot in buy and sell mode at the same time. If you have not tried my trading robot yet, write to me at the link in the description in Telegram. I will tell you how you can get it for free. Well, if you need ready-made settings for a trading robot for the Australian dollar currency pair, then write to me. I have an expert, a specialist in customizing the robot. We will help you to set up. Write to me in Telegram. The link will be in the description. What to do if you drained your deposit and how, in fact, not to drain it. First, you need to think about why it happened. As a rule, draining a deposit occurs for two reasons. Either you trade manually or you trade with a robot. It often happens that people come to me and say that I bought a robot somewhere and it drained my deposit. Most likely, such a robot did not have a risk limit setting. My robot has this setting, so before you buy any robots, you need to find out if you can test them and if they have a risk limit so that you don't drain your deposit. My robot has this, so if you still have not lost faith in trading robots, you can take my robot free of charge for testing and make sure that there is such a risk limit setting, and it will allow you not to drain your deposit. If you are trading manually, then most likely the deposit is drained because you are not using stop loss. It happens very often that when you open a trade, when you start trading, you think, yes, I'm done. I'm going to trade with a stop loss risk limit. But in the process of trading, you start to make exceptions for yourself. You think, well, in this case, I will not trade with a stop loss. I am sure that it is possible not to put it here. It is at this moment that a strong movement occurs, which drains your deposit. It also happens because of high leverage. That is, if you have a small deposit and you use high leverage and don't use a stop loss. These are the three factors that cause you to drain your deposit. How not to drain them? Do exactly the opposite. Trade with a large deposit, use a stop loss, and use less leverage. That is low leverage. Let's see it on the example of the same currency pair, Australian dollar to American dollar. Let's take a look at the manual trading option of entering a trade by hand. That's what we have here. Let's look for my Smart Pilot Points trading strategy to enter a trade on the Australian dollar. This is what the support line looks like right here. This is the closest support line that could most likely already work out in the next few days, maybe even hours. This is the H4 chart. Let's take a closer look at one. Look, in the near future, if the price reaches this support line, it will be a buy reversal point. From here, it will be possible to buy and capitalize on the upside. At such a reversal point, I expect a move of about 50 pips from the support line. Often more happen. Everyone who subscribes to my web channel, the link in the description, who needs my selected subscription point. When I trade myself, it often happens that the price passes even more. That is, I give a point with take profit of 50 pips. And the price passes 100, 150, 200, 250, 300 pips. This often happens, so I take less. And in this case, if you trade in the MetaTrader platform, even with $100, you can earn $50 from such a single transaction with high leverage. And in relation to $100, indeed, it will be $50. It is 50% of the deposit. But in order not to lose your deposit, you need to understand this in advance. Are you ready to take this risk or not? Let's take a closer look at this reversal point. Let's assume that you decided to open a buy trade at the moment when the price touches this support line. Let's see how many pips should pass. It should pass 50. That is, let's see where approximately it will be located. Here is 47. Well, I took a ruler. Approximately, there's 53. That is in this place, approximately in this place, when the price reaches this value. You will earn $50 if you trade with one standard lot. But you should realize that if the price goes further down, let's see, the H4 time frame will not go up, but on. The contrary down, I will draw an arrow. Then most likely it will reach the next support line. It is 0.63.720. And let's see how many points there are to this line. It turns out to be 1,129 points. So it turns out that if the price goes further down, and you do not have a stop loss, you should lose 1,129 pips or $1,129 if you trade the same lot. But if you only have $1,000 on your deposit, this would be fatal for you, meaning you would lose your deposit. Now let's calculate what would happen if you had not $100 on your deposit, but $10,000. It turns out that this drawdown of $1,129 against you, if the price goes, will mean for you only 11% of the deposit drawdown. That is, you will not lose your deposit. It turns out that larger investors in this case are more protected than smaller investors. But it happens like this. People often come to me when they seem to have money. A person has money. He keeps on his bank account, let's say $5,000. But he decided to try to experiment. I don't want to take risks. I'll put $100 and see how your robot trades or how I do. I don't trade well. I don't want to take a lot of risks. As a result, it turns out that if he trades according to such a strategy, he will always lose with $100. And he will lose several times. He will be disappointed in his business, disappointed in his trading strategy just because he loses money. But he trades incorrectly. If he had $5,000 on his deposit, and even if he lost, he would lose maximum 10% of his deposit, and that if he did not use stop loss. It turns out that the trading strategy, it works, but if the deposit is wrong for this strategy, then the strategy will not work either. Therefore, in order not to drain the deposit, you need to use the right deposit or use another strategy. Don't use mine then, use another strategy. But if you use my strategy, you need to use the right deposit and use risk limits, so you don't lose that deposit. Let's take a look at our favorite instrument, which is gold, and what are the reversal points here. And let's discuss what I said in the last issue, that gold will move in steps. It does. And one person wrote me that, you see, your signal didn't work. Look, I gave a reversal point to sell from the resistance line, and this is where the price went up. But in fact, if we look closer, let's look at the M5 time frame, better even M1, we can see that when we look closer, the price came to the resistance line and broke away from it by 235 points. That's $235 if you trade one standard lot. Yes, it didn't bounce exactly from the line, but it doesn't need to, because it always happens on the stock exchange. The price is a little bit short, or a little bit over. I talk about it on my professional course. I tell you how to act in this situation in order to make money. Therefore, the correction, it is almost always from those reversal points that I talk about. And let's look at the following reversal points. What happened there? Look, when the price reached, it even broke off twice from the next pivot point, from the resistance line 3,403. The price has not reached the next resistance line yet, but it did, stomped and left. But I am sure that when it reaches this line, the reversal point will also work, and you can make money here too. By the way, the previous reversal point gave a correction, let's do the math, of $2,084 in total. Now I will show another reversal point on gold, which you can also make money on. Now, let's talk about what to do if there is no money for trading. If suddenly there is such a really problem, you need to think about why this money is not there. In any case, any person works, receives some income, and spends on various needs. And there is such a rule of wise people, which I heard and memorized. Pay yourself first. That is, you should pay yourself 10% of your income first, and then the rest of your expenses. Mortgages, loans, obligations, debts, some clothing needs, food, and so on. Because if you do it last, put money aside, you will never do it, because you will always be short of it. If you put money aside first, pay yourself, then you will always have money. This is the money you need to accumulate in a bank or brokerage account, and then you will always have some amount of money accumulated that you can further invest. And if you have some difficulty with this, then of course you should not trade on the stock exchange with a large high credit key. I mean, I recommend putting forced for yourself. Although I don't recommend this to a lot of people, but in this case I recommend that you specifically put leverage at 1 to 10, just everything, no more. There was a study, I often talk about it in my courses, that they researched which clients are constantly earning and which are constantly losing. So those clients that are constantly earning, they have two rules in common. One of these rules is leverage, which does not exceed 1/10. If you will use it, you already limit, and really from 50% of risks from half, which are waiting for you on the stock exchange. This is your emotional instability, excitement, thirst to make money, and that is, you will already reduce these risks. And you will see that your result will improve. So use leverage 1.10 and then you will gradually accumulate, not lose. And let me show you a reversal point, which is also coming up. And maybe you see right now the price is going down in gold. There may well be buyers looking for an entry point. This is that entry point. It's at the nearest support line. Let me put it a little bit higher like this. This is a quote of $3,247 per troy ounce. If the price reaches here, it will be possible to buy gold here, maybe even for a long time. It will be possible to buy here and make money on the growth. And now, finally, let's talk about how to double the deposit, whether it is possible on the stock exchange. But before, I want to say that if you are just starting to trade on the stock exchange, I still do not recommend using this method. I recommend that you start by taking my basic course on trading for beginners from scratch, especially since you can get it for free. And until the end of the summer, I have a promotion for depositing brokerage account from $100. On the link in the description of these videos, you can get my course for free. This is a video course. It is convenient to watch, absorb the information, so I recommend you to start with it. So let's look at the example of the euro dollar, how you can double your deposit. First of all, I want to warn you that this is certainly not a recommendation for action, but it is technically a real possibility to double it. And let's just do the math and see how to do it. First, we're going to look at my strategy to see what the reversal points are. By the way, this is a good reversal point right here. We have a support line here on the euro dollar. We also have a resistance line right up here. Once price reaches the resistance line, we can sell from here and capitalize on the decline. I'm expecting a downward correction here, but if the price goes down the other way, once it reaches the support line, I expect a reversal up here. And from here, it can buy and capitalize on the growth. Accordingly, if we expect a reversal, there is a place where you can buy and make money on the growth. Let's mark this place with a horizontal line. And now let's look at the time frame a little bit closer and smaller, let's say. See, doubling your deposit depends on understanding what your initial deposit is, as well as your trading volume. Let's take the example of $1,000. For example, you have $1,000 on deposit and you expect the price to reach a reversal point. Here we can buy, down here where the purple line is, and expect growth. Accordingly, let's calculate how much the price has to go. So that if you have a deposit of $1,000 to double it, let's read here, move the crosshairs. It turns out that if we have, look, the volume of the transaction, one lot, then when the price moves 1,000 points, it will be approximately here at this level. Let me draw approximately at this level. That is, if the price passes 1,000 pips, which is, by the way, the average movement of the euro dollar, even less than the average movement. The average movement per day of the euro dollar is 1,500 pips. No, not even 1,000. 1,000 for the British pound is 1,500. For the euro dollar is 1,000. So this is the average movement that the price passes usually in a day of the euro dollar. So if the price passes this distance, you will earn $1,000 when trading with one lot. If you have a deposit of 1,000 pips, respectively, you will double your deposit. That's it. If you have a deposit of $100, you will earn $1,000 when trading with the same one lot. That is, you will not just double, you will make X10 to the deposit. People sometimes tell me that it is much more interesting to make money on cryptocurrency. If it goes up, you'll make X10 or X100, please. This is what those who don't know the power of leverage in the currency market say, please. This has been working for 200 years. You can open a forex brokerage account, use a large leverage, and here you can earn no less than in the crypto market, but safer, because crypto exchanges sometimes just get hacked, which only happens to them. But again, such a strong movement may not happen within a day. For example, let's look at the previous 24 hours. How much movement was there here? 592 points. That is, there was not 1,000. On average, the euro dollar gives 1,000 points in a day. But now I'm looking at it, 592 as well. The previous day, 660. So it may not give that. That is, the price may not go that distance. In this case, it is better to count on a shorter distance. This is what, in principle, I teach in my professional course. We take a short movement from strong reversal point. Let's see how much we can take. For example, if there are 1,000 points here, and we can count on 50 points, for example. Here for 50 pips. Accordingly, how can we double our deposit if we count only on 50 pips? Accordingly, we need to choose the volume that corresponds to our deposit. Let's say we have a deposit of $100 and a move of 50 pips should bring us how much? Also $100 if we are talking about doubling the deposit. Accordingly, for this, we need to choose the volume of 2 lots. We have a deposit of $100. We open a deal with the volume of 2 lots. To do this, we need to have a large leverage. By the way, I can recommend brokers with a large leverage on the link in the description. Write to me in Telegram. I will tell you. And when the price passes only 50 points, that is somewhere around here, look here, that is just this small distance, you are already doubling your deposit. But, of course, if the price does what? Goes further, breaks this support line and passes at least the same 50 pips, you will lose your deposit completely. And we talked to you at the beginning of the video about how not to lose your deposit. So your desire to double your deposit and not lose your deposit, it's the exact opposite. That is, keep in mind that if you want to trade safely, you better give up the idea of doubling your deposit in a short period of time, especially in one trade. It is simply incompatible. Yes, you can double your deposit in a year. That is 100% for a year to show. This is the average normal profitability on the currency market, but not from a single transaction. And so the thirst to always double the deposit in a quick and short period of time will lead to a deposit drain. Therefore, in order not to drain your deposit, just give up this idea at least temporarily for the time being, and you will see that it is possible to earn on the market, but with less risks. By the way, I remind you that this week there will be important news about the interest rate decision in America. Let's take a look at the calendar. Look, on Wednesday, July 30, there will be news on the US Federal Reserve interest rate decision. And the current value is 4.5, and no change is planned, also 4.5. I don't expect any directional movement here, but I am 100% sure that there will be some strong volatility. In order not to miss this news, subscribe to my Telegram channel by the link in the description. There are 30 minutes before the release of important economic news, on which I like to make money. I warn everyone, we make money together. But perhaps some strong movement, if we see it, respectively, then on the pullback you can quickly get your profit. And, by the way, double your deposit. But this is for those who like risk. By the way, if you use brokerage accounts, deposit them in USDT and withdraw profits in USDT. I recommend using the Antarctic wallet, cryptocurrency wallet, which allows you not to change USDT into rubles if you live in Russia, but simply by scanning a QR code at the terminal of a store, cafe, restaurant to pay for your purchases. I recommend this wallet. I've been using it for a long time. By the link in the description you can join. Just in Telegram is installed. They're 2 seconds and no applications do not need to install. These are the recommendations for this week. I hope it was useful. If it was useful, please give me a like. Write comments on how you are doing with trading, whether you have lost deposits. And of course, I wish everyone a successful trading week. Trade with pleasure. Bye, everyone.